She smiled as she spoke, a smile I could not erase from memory. It wasn't a fretful or sorrowful smile, but one of release, as if she had been bearing an immense burden for months and finally placed it upon me, then walked away. Harrison can offer me the life you never could, Harrison. The scene unfolded in our kitchen, the same kitchen we purchased together 8 years prior in Frisco, Texas. The house with the bay window that Camille chose deliberately to capture the perfect morning light on the breakfast table. I was cradling a cold mug of coffee, untouched since 5 a.m., as I prepared a $37 million contract for a client within my home office. There was no immediate response from me. Instead, I simply gazed at her, and she did not seem remorseful or frightened. She appeared prepared, as if she had rehearsed this moment, as if she had practiced the precise tilt of her chin when she said it in the bathroom mirror that morning. Brent comprehends the life I aspire to live. You've never grasped that situation. Brent Holloway, the managing director of Pinnacle Group, a commercial real estate development company based in uptown Dallas, was my superior. I had shaken his hand on 3 separate company holiday occasions. I allowed Camille to take his calls during dinner because she claimed he only contacted her outside office hours when it was urgent. I chose to overlook numerous instances due to my trust in my wife. Carefully placing the coffee mug on the counter, I responded, "Okay." This wasn't the reaction she anticipated. What she didn't realize, what she couldn't possibly know, was that 6 weeks prior, Brent Holloway had made a request to my firm. His company was in the midst of a $37 million acquisition deal on the verge of collapse. In less than 3 weeks, his entire project depended on a single contract review and negotiation that only one lawyer in Dallas possessed the specific expertise for. Guess who that lawyer was? Me. The narrative doesn't begin when Camille departed. It commenced the instant I comprehended that the existence I envisioned wasn't one she ever desired to live. If you've ever been surprised by someone you considered utterly trustworthy, or found yourself rebuilding your identity without a partner who was supposed to be there, I urge you to click subscribe immediately and share your experiences below. This channel is tailored for such moments. Like this video if you're still here. Every comment is read by me. Here's the truth. My name is Harrison Cole, aged 44. I work as a corporate contracts attorney at Meridian Legal Group, situated in downtown Dallas on Commerce Street. For 18 years, I've honed my reputation in commercial real estate transactions, mergers, and high-stakes acquisition deals. I'm not one for flashiness. I drive a 4-year-old Lexus, and my suits are of good quality but neither excessive nor ostentatious. My work often consumes me, with the occasional criticism that I overwork. 12 years ago, at a fundraiser for a children's hospital at Dallas Perot Museum, I encountered Camille. At that time, she was a marketing coordinator for a mid-sized commercial real estate firm. She possessed an ability to illuminate a room without seeming to try dark hair, infectious laughter, and keen eyes. Her listening skills made you feel as if you were the sole occupant of the room. I was captivated after our initial encounter. We dated for 2 years before marrying at a venue in Southlake, purchasing a home in Frisco during its early development stages, when the commute seemed a trade-off worth enduring. Discussing children and constructing something enduring was our focus, and I genuinely felt we were achieving this for quite some time. I'd like to share insights about those initial years as they seem crucial for comprehending what followed. In the beginning, Camille and I got along well. It wasn't a storybook relationship. We had disagreements, turbulent phases, and the usual friction that comes with 2 people from different backgrounds merging their lives. Yet there was a strong connection between us, a shared understanding, a kind of unspoken communication. She could make me laugh more than anyone I've encountered, which is significant for someone like me who usually maintains composure and control. I believe I offered her something too, perhaps stability or a sense of security during challenging times. The first few years in our house in Frisco were harmonious. We enjoyed meals with friends. Our post-house purchase years saw trips to Portugal and New Mexico, respectively, a vacation each. Our days held routines that felt self-chosen, not stumbled upon. Mornings found us at the bay window table, sipping coffee and discussing matters of importance. The descent wasn't straightforward or easily summarized. It was messier than that. Marriage is a complex landscape, and its protracted midsection is a phase few prepare you for. The ardor of the early years evolves into something more subdued, either deepening or distancing based on daily attention and care. I acknowledge my neglect, but can't precisely pinpoint when it began. Camille changed, and this transformation wasn't sudden. It didn't arise from a single conversation or argument. Instead, it was a gradual transition, subtler than a noticeable event. 4 years ago, she started working at Pinnacle Group, recruited personally by Brent Holloway. He noticed her at an industry event in the design district and felt she was underutilized at her previous job. That night, she returned home brimming with excitement, more alive than I'd seen her in months. Her decision made me happy, truly so. Pinnacle Group offered a better pay and a title she could be proud of: Director of Marketing and Brand Strategy. Long hours were demanding, but she appeared energized rather than exhausted, which seemed like a positive sign. I convinced myself it was a healthy change. In retrospect, I realized what I was deceiving myself with instead of seeing clearly. She was prospering, as any husband would wish. The shifts occurred subtly, with later dinners, increased work events I wasn't included in, a new behavior of keeping her phone screen down, a subtle distancing in her gaze that seemed so gradual I almost thought it was maturity. I excel at interpreting contracts, uncovering the things people attempt to conceal within language for a living, but I was hopeless at deciphering the silence in my own household. Approximately 8 months before she departed, I arrived home from a 4-day trip to Houston, where I'd been finalizing a significant acquisition deal for a client. I brought her flowers from the airport, not due to it being a special occasion, but simply because I saw them and thought of her. She regarded them as something that recalled an error. She smiled. She placed them in a vase. She thanked me. And there was something about how she did it that made me aware we were in difficulty. I didn't press. I didn't inquire. I returned to work because work was the tongue I understood, and the space between us felt too delicate to probe directly. I had promised myself I would find time, we would embark on a journey, and things would eventually calm down. None of that happened when Camille informed me she was leaving. That morning, I had been awake since before sunrise. A significant contract was stacked on my desk, a commercial acquisition in the uptown Dallas corridor worth $37 million, a project my Nashville-based client had been chasing for 18 months with numerous intricate components. For 2 weeks straight, I had worked 16-hour days. Camille appeared downstairs around 7:30, her bag packed and ready. Initially, I thought she was going on a work trip, but her expression was different. She said, "I have something to tell you, Harrison." I put down my coffee. "For a long time, I've been unhappy," she confessed. "I've tried to make this relationship work, but it seems neither of us needs this anymore." I inquired if there was another person involved. Without hesitation, she affirmed, "Yes." I asked for the name. "You shared with me that Brent Holloway, your employer, is distinct from Harrison, as he recognizes you and the lifestyle you aspire to. He offers dinners, travel, and engagement with people constructing tangible projects. Conversely, I'm perpetually moving between home and office, often working at ungodly hours. It seems I live alone in my own house. I acknowledge there's some truth to this claim. I am well aware that I overwork and have failed to strike a harmonious balance between my work and personal life. My dedication to my profession is not an excuse, it's a reality. I find purpose in my work, yet I haven't always managed the equilibrium with the person residing within the same four walls. In one case, a marriage is strained due to one partner's work habits, while in another it dissolves because the other partner has been planning an exit for over a year. She told me he could offer me a life you never could. She smiled. That smile I still remember, not just with bitterness but also in wonder. It was genuine. For a woman who had carefully concealed her feelings for months, always maintaining a calm facade when returning home late or hiding her phone upon my arrival, that moment revealed her true self. She wasn't mournful, she wasn't conflicted. She had made up her mind long ago, and in that instant she felt liberated to express it openly. I didn't argue, I didn't plead. What kept me quiet was more likely stunned silence, the quiet shock of realizing that what I considered strong and enduring had actually been hollow for a considerable period. "All right," I repeated. She grabbed her bag, mentioning her lawyer would reach out soon. She exited through the front door, leaving me in the kitchen for quite some time. Eventually, I returned to my home office and continued working on a contract. "I need to discuss this contract with you." Approximately 6 weeks prior to Camille's departure, a file concerning Pinnacle Group's acquisition of a mixed-use development property along the uptown Dallas corridor arrived at Meridian Legal Group. The referral was routine, originating from a commercial real estate broker we had previously worked with. This company, Pinnacle Group, was in the final stages of the deal, which had been ongoing for more than a year. They were currently reviewing and negotiating contracts, but their legal team had encountered difficulties. Specifically, the seller's lawyers introduced complex contingency clauses that were causing delays and potentially jeopardizing the entire transaction. For the position at hand, Pinnacle Group sought an attorney with extensive experience in Texas commercial acquisition contract law, especially one adept at negotiating intricate contingency structures under tight deadlines. Given the rarity of such professionals in Dallas, particularly those suited for a deal of this magnitude, my name was mentioned. It's important to clarify my professional approach. When a case lands on my desk, I assess it based on its inherent qualities, the deal structure, legal intricacies, time constraints, and client. I never delve into the client's personal life, refraining from investigating their romantic relationships or weekend activities. That's not how I operate, nor how an ethical attorney should function. It took me several days to recognize the client as Pinnacle Group and the managing director requesting representation as Brent Holloway, without connecting them to Camille initially. At that moment, the nature of their relationship remained unclear to me, more a suspicion than tangible reality. A vague sensation lurked in my chest, which I repeatedly suppressed. I undertook the case and interacted with Brent Holloway on 2 occasions within a fortnight, always within formal settings. He was meticulously groomed, exuding an air of professionalism, well-tailored suits, assertive demeanor, the self-assured dominance typical of those accustomed to commanding attention. His gaze held a familiar quality, the way powerful men sometimes regard attorneys, as if we are handy instruments, intelligent yet ultimately serving their purposes. He was unaware of my true identity. He knew my name, my firm, and my reputation, but he was oblivious to the fact that I was Harrison Cole, Camille Cole's husband who worked under him. Honestly, I have my doubts if Camille even realized I was handling her case. She never hinted at it, nor did I bring it up. By the time she departed, I had essentially completed my initial tasks on the file and hadn't mentioned the conflict of interest to anyone, not even myself. However, this is where ethics come into play. I feel it's crucial to be truthful about what transpired, as I'm not the antagonist in this narrative. Yet I won't pretend I managed everything flawlessly. The following day after Camille left, I spent a considerable amount of time in my office before dialing my managing partner, Douglas Hart. He has been practicing law in Dallas for over 3 decades. I confided in him about Camille, Brent, and the personal conflict of interest with our current client that warranted his attention. After a moment of silence, Douglas inquired, "Are you requesting to be excused from this case?" I pondered it, giving it careful thought. "No," was my response. My ability to perform legal duties for the client competently and ethically is unaffected by the conflict arising from my personal history with his employee. This issue does not interfere with the work at hand, and it should be noted and properly recorded. Douglas agreed, and we did so. Our ethical advisor reviewed the situation, concluding that while a conflict existed and disclosure was necessary, it didn't mandate withdrawal since the nature of the legal work involved no conflicting interests between my personal history and the client's legal requirements. Brent Holloway was made aware of our previous connection. Not the specific details. Those were confidential, but enough information for him to comprehend that his attorney and his employee had a personal past. Brent Holloway chose not to terminate the representation. Take a moment to absorb this information. The man who had been in a relationship with my wife for an extended period, who had witnessed her leaving our marriage on a Tuesday morning, was informed of the connection. Discovering his $37 million deal's attorney was his wife surprised him, yet he chose to continue. Perhaps he thought I wouldn't uncover the facts. Maybe he assumed I was a professional sticking to my duties. Maybe he was overconfident, believing it was inconsequential. Or perhaps, and I suspect this is nearer the mark, he didn't consider me as a person at all. I was a service provider. He had a deal to finalize. This isn't a tale where I went home and wept for a day before re-emerging undisturbed and victorious. The reality was more challenging. The house seemed vast, not in a metaphorical sense, but literally the rooms appeared larger. The kitchen with its bay window, the corridor decorated with a gallery purchase from Bishop Arts District, the bedroom where I continued to sleep on my own side of the bed out of habit. Spoke with my brother Ryan, residing in Austin. He visited for a weekend, and we spent time on the back porch in silence, sipping beer amidst the darkness, which was exactly the respite I required. At lunch one day, my firm's trusted colleague and confidant, Patricia, a woman who has weathered 2 divorces and is unyielding in court, sat opposite me and stated, "Harrison, you will be all right. Not today, maybe not soon, but you will be all right." I held her conviction. Though the sentiment had yet to reach me, I trusted her. Engrossed myself in work, my usual coping mechanism, part of the reason I was in this predicament initially. However, when suffering, work can sometimes offer solace. Sometimes, a challenging and intricate problem to solve prevents your mind from succumbing to self-destructive thoughts. The Pinnacle Group deal was intricate. The seller's lawyers inserted conditions in the contract, contingent on environmental evaluations and zoning approval deadlines, seemingly to provide the seller with ample opportunity to back out with minimal consequences. This was skillful legal maneuvering on their part. My task was to counteract it without derailing the deal. I dedicated 3.5 weeks to this contract, working round the clock, even during weekends. I negotiated with the seller's legal team 4 times. I revised 3 critical clauses. I incorporated a provision for a performance bond that safeguarded my client's position regarding the zoning timeline in an unexpected and undeniable way. This was some of the finest legal work I've performed in my career. Admittedly, this sounds unusual considering the turmoil in my personal life at that time. However, there's a sense of clarity in pushing one's limits when one's heart is aching. $37 million commercial acquisition was finalized in the conference room on the 14th floor of a building on McKinney Avenue on a late October Thursday afternoon. Downtown Dallas lay sprawled beneath us, bathed in bright daylight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows. Sitting opposite the seller's team with my client's representatives flanking me, we sealed the deal with the final signatures. It was a satisfying agreement. My client secured their requirements. The near-collapse deal was salvaged. Contingency problems were addressed. Deadline adhered to. Brent Holloway was present, offering congratulations upon conclusion. Outstanding work, he acknowledged, and it resonated sincerely, an unexpected praise from him. I knew he meant it, a peculiar yet rewarding sentiment coming from him. "You saved this deal," he said. "I want you to remember that." I looked at him, accepted his handshake, and thanked him. For weeks, I labored on his business deal without him realizing, all while my old life was being boxed up in San Francisco. That day Camille left, instead of reacting, I returned to my desk and continued working on his agreement. My legal skills, which he commended me for, were honed over 19 years of early mornings and late nights, seemingly insufficient for him. Let me clarify, this isn't a tale of vengeance or retribution against Brent Holloway. I share this story because of the events that unfolded after the deal was sealed, because of what I discovered later on, and because of one conversation we had during the divorce proceedings. The divorce proceedings commenced in November. We had no children, which made some things easier and others, in a peculiar manner, more difficult. In our possession were the house, possessions, and 12 years of life that needed to be bifurcated. Camille had enlisted a lawyer from an Addison-based firm, while I represented myself through a family law associate at another firm, with Douglas ensuring there were no potential conflicts. Our legal representatives handled most of the correspondence. Camille and I engaged in minimal direct conversation. She phoned me only once. I nearly let it go unanswered, but my inherent curiosity propelled me to do so. This trait is partially responsible for my competence as an attorney, and I wished to hear her voice to observe if the morning's visible relief had morphed into something else. "I merely want you to understand," she conveyed, "that this wasn't about a lack of affection for you. I did cherish you, I do, however I require a distinct life." I inquired if she was content. There was a silence. "Perhaps," she replied. I inquired if she had known Brent collaborated with my firm prior to departing. This time the pause lasted longer. "No," she said, "I wasn't aware," and I found her honesty credible. Camille has been multifaceted throughout, yet lacks a strategic mindset. Her decisions stem from emotions rather than calculated plans. The coincidence was peculiar indeed, but it was simply a coincidence. "All right," I responded for the 3rd time within this narrative. We ended the call. 2 months later, I discovered the source of the information was Patricia, my coworker, who overheard it from a real estate broker we're acquainted with. Rumors spread swiftly in Dallas's real estate sector. The spheres intertwine frequently. Lawyers, brokers, developers, they all know each other and engage in conversation. The Pinnacle Group deal was finalized, but subsequently problems began to emerge. An internal audit at Pinnacle Group unearthed discrepancies in the financial reports related to previous ventures, distinct from the acquisition I handled. yet concerns from past transactions, which might remain dormant for years before a relevant clue surfaces. The board of Pinnacle Group demanded a review of Brent Holloway's leadership due to serious audit findings, and it wasn't a situation I initiated or had any part in. In fact, like everyone else within Dallas's real estate legal community, I learned about it through casual conversation. Coincidentally, Camille was leaving me for a man whose career was facing troubles at the same time she became involved with him. He presented her with promises of luxurious experiences, travel, and exposure, but these were built on an unstable foundation. I'm unsure of their subsequent relationship. Regarding my own life, I choose not to follow it closely anymore, much like one would cease tracking something that is no longer one's concern. However, the $37 million deal I closed for Brent Holloway remains a significant point of reference in my firm's commercial real estate practice. 3 significant clients granted access, a career triumph, self-perpetuating, generating calls. 6 months post-divorce, I accepted a named partnership at Meridian Legal Group. I admit something that's been on my mind for a while, something I couldn't utter in those early days, standing in the chilly kitchen by the bay window with cold coffee. I was not an ideal spouse. I want to express this unequivocally, neither blaming nor diminishing Camille's actions. I overworked and retreated into my office upon returning home. I rationalized that financial stability was a manifestation of love, but it wasn't the sole expression of love, and it wasn't the kind she required. A deteriorating marriage is seldom entirely one person's responsibility. This isn't an easy truth to acknowledge. It's less burdensome to be the wronged party, the blameless one, the individual taken by surprise without any personal culpability. In some aspects, that was me. Yet I was also a spouse who had been emotionally detached for years, self-congratulatory about my financial contributions. I needed this wake-up call. I required the ground to give way beneath me before I could confront the truth honestly. Here's what I understand now. In my new uptown Dallas apartment, overlooking the city I've worked in for 19 years, I am improving its stillness, though not yet adept. I don't want to feign a complete metamorphosis, but I'm making progress. I go for morning walks before I start my computer work. I dine with Ryan when he visits, keeping my phone in my coat pocket. For the first time in my life at 43 years old, I sought therapy, and I faced a woman named Doctor across from me. Anita Reeves acknowledged aloud for the first instance that I had predominantly equated productivity with self-worth throughout my adult years. She appeared to recognize this sentiment, possibly having heard it previously. Nevertheless, it took me 43 years to express it. I'd like to share with you the events of the morning I packed my belongings from the Frisco house for the final time. This incident was orchestrated on a Saturday in early December. Camille wasn't present. She had consented to be absent that morning. Ryan traveled up from Austin to assist me in transferring boxes into a storage unit, while Patricia, my colleague, joined as well, an unrequested assistance I found myself appreciative of. We labored mostly in silence, with the act of packing possessing a distinctive quality, that of concluding a life. Each item required handling, and decisions had to be made about their future, keep, discard, or ponder over. I placed items into boxes, marked them with a marker pen, and loaded them onto Ryan's truck, endeavoring not to dwell on the situation at hand. The final item I picked up was a gray mug from long ago, not the one used that morning which remained in the cabinet. Instead, it was an enduring, resilient mug I'd purchased years earlier at a gas station during a road trip. I stood in the kitchen with the bay window for the last time, and as Camille had always predicted, the morning light streamed in as she described. Indeed, she was correct about that. I placed the mug inside a box. With that, I shut the door behind me and embarked on a fresh start unlike any I had envisioned. This new beginning came unexpectedly, one might say truthfully. Since my divorce, I have gone on dates, but nothing substantial yet. There's no rush, something unprecedented for me, as I've always been a swift mover with targets and deadlines. However, I've discovered an ability to endure uncertainty that was previously beyond me. It's unsettling, but perhaps it is what I lacked. In the professional realm, things have unfolded in ways I could not have foreseen. The development of a partnership, new clients. A spring case that reached mediation and settled to a sum newsworthy in the Dallas Business Journal. Currently, I'm engaged in an endeavor of personal importance. It's a pro bono project with a legal aid group that assists small business owners in comprehending commercial leases. These individuals often lack the means to shield themselves from the sort of contingency clause manipulation I encounter daily at Meridian. This pro bono work provides the most grounding experience each week for me, as it involves sitting face-to-face with an East Dallas restaurant owner and explaining, in simple terms, what a landlord's lawyer is attempting to do to them. Watching someone who initially comes in fearful leave with helpful information, that's not glamorous, but it's authentic. When people ask me about parts of this story, which I share cautiously, they often question if I regret the outcome, wish I had fought more, or wish I had foreseen it. I don't regret the ending. I believe that's an honest response. I believe we exhausted our potential as a couple. Prolonging the relationship would have likely resulted in us causing mutual misery for another 10 years, leading to the same eventual conclusion. I am sorry for my shortcomings towards her. However, I don't carry this regret as a crippling guilt, but as knowledge that guides me in my current actions. I wish her no harm. I genuinely mean it. Camille is not an antagonist. She is an individual who made choices. Some of those choices were less than ideal. Some may have been necessitated by reasons I can't fully comprehend from my vantage point. I hope she finds the life she desired. This wish isn't born out of nobility but practicality. Her happiness and mine are no longer intertwined, and harboring resentment towards her is a cost I'm unwilling to bear anymore. As for Brent Holloway, we haven't communicated since the deal was finalized. His law firm switched legal representation after the internal audit incident occurred. This seems fitting. This is how it ought to be. The incident that lingers most in my memory isn't the day Camille departed or the conference where we sealed the deal. It isn't even the revelation about Brent. What stands out is a seemingly minor event, disclosing the conflict of interest in Douglas Hart's office when I made that call. I had the chance to stay silent, for the case to move forward, the deal to close, and Brent Holloway to remain unaware of my attorney-employee connection. But I chose to speak up, only because I knew about it. That morning in Douglas's office, I shared everything with him. And when he asked if I wanted off the case, I declined, not for any tactical reason or to be present at Brent Holloway's signing, but simply because I chose honesty. Despite the unremarkable nature of the decision, it stands out to me as the action I'm most proud of amidst a tumultuous period. In the midst of a crumbling marriage, long workdays, and feeling lost in a large house, I made the right call on a Thursday morning within a managing partner's office. It wasn't dramatic or heroic, just the right thing to do. As my mother used to say, character is demonstrated when it doesn't serve personal benefit. Initially, I dismissed this as a cliché, but now I understand why such phrases become clichés, because they hold truth. My life has taken different turns since then, both physically, professionally, and personally. The uptown apartment is truly mine in contrast to the house in Frisco that never fully felt like home. I don't prefer it over anything else, but because everything within it is precisely where I arranged it. I rise early. I likely work excessively, though. I'm making progress leaving work before it's deserted. I have regular commitments with Ryan on 2 occasions, which I never miss. I dine with Patricia and her spouse at a restaurant in the Kessler Park area she's long urged me to visit. To be honest, it's splendid. The bay often crosses my mind, sometimes through the window, occasionally the morning light or the cold coffee. I ponder Camille's words. He can offer me a life you could never provide, and I muse over what I understand now that I didn't know before, the life I might have been unable to live. Perhaps she's correct in that regard. Some couples are destined to grow together, while others find themselves slowly shrinking. Neither is inherently the antagonist of this dance. Perhaps the life she envisioned was one that appeared appealing from afar, characterized by dinners, travel, and a man in a corner office who acknowledged her in public. It might have been the very life she yearned for, and she would acquire it, finding happiness. I truly wish this for her. What resonates with me is the life I'm crafting now, methodical, honest, founded on work I'm proud of, and relationships I no longer take for granted. Perhaps less impressive from a distance, quieter, yet undeniably mine. This has to suffice, and more often than not it does. What struck me most about Harrison's tale wasn't the betrayal, but the instant he entered his boss's office and revealed the conflict. When no one would have known if he kept silent. That's who you truly are, not who you are when being observed, but who you are when unseen. I believe many of us mistake loyalty for blindness and hard work for presence. Harrison undertook those actions and paid the price. If this narrative stirred a thought about your personal life, share it below. I always read each comment thoroughly. Also, consider subscribing for new weekly stories. Until the next post.